is my second meeting as your chair, and I inherited a great situation from Larry, Caleb as treasurer, and Denise as secretary. They do a heavy lift around here, and really appreciate the work they do. So I was also blessed to get a new vice chair. She's pretty good too. Caitlin Boyle. So here's the part that says chairman's comments, and if you've heard me speak before, you know, I've got a lot to say. But tonight you're lucky because I don't have much time. So I just have a couple things. One, I'd like to recognize our representatives that have come out tonight. I saw Representative Ligon here. Where did he go? Where is he? Oh, there he is. Thank you. And Jackie Tarabiles here as well. Oh, hey. Okay. All right, so thank you guys for coming out. And we also, I believe, have a number of maybe first-time attendees or guests. So if you're a first-time attendee, we've been advertising a little bit, and hopefully you've come out tonight. Would you stand, please? Anybody? Yes? Oh, okay. Well, that's our guest speaker, so I guess that counts too. We'll take it. Well, hopefully y'all will consider joining us in the fight that we're going to hear some about tonight. I do want to let you know that one of our members, he's not here tonight, Larry Bird, is also a member of the Oak Initiative organization. And they have an event coming up on June 3rd where a number of J6 patriots are going to be coming to speak. And if you want more information on that, you can find it on our Facebook page, the York County GOP. We've got a post there about it. Would encourage you all to consider that. It's in Fort Mill here, so, or there. So I wanted you to know about that. Last topic is, for me, is, as you've heard before, our focus over this next term is to grow our membership. We've committed some funds to do some marketing and attract people to what we're doing. And in short, this is a grassroots organization, right? Now, for those of you who are probably familiar with the way things go in the Republican Party, there's a bit of tension going on between the grassroots and, I'm not going to use the pejorative term, I'll call it establishment, more establishment-minded Republicans in the party. We are the grassroots. And so there are a lot of us. In last year's presidential primary that pitted, let's see, oh yeah, Donald Trump against Nikki Haley. Donald Trump received 24,000 votes in this county. Now that's in a primary, so it's usually lower turnout. He got way more in the general, but 24,000 people were motivated to come out in an election that pretty much everybody figured he's going to win anyway. Well, we've got about 500 members right now, so we've got a lot of room to grow our membership in people that are motivated by Trump and his revolution, really, you could call it. So our focus is to grow. And one of the little tools we have, I've placed a few you'll notice little business cards on your tables. If you're inclined to take a few of those with you, and if you're out in public and you see somebody wearing a MAGA hat or just an American flag on their shirt or something like that, you know, hand them a card and let them know what we're about. And you know, everybody can be involved in this effort to grow our organization. Now, why do we want to grow? Because the more we grow, the more influence we have with our elected delegation, right? So if you're an organization of, say, 100 people, and your representative might say, well, that's of interest to me, but if you're an organization of 5,000 people, I don't know, Representative Ligon, is that a different thing?
Lots of different.
Okay, so we hope to get there. And the sooner we do, the more influence we'll have with our delegation, and that's what we're shooting for. So the other thing you can do is we have been sending out a lot of emails. You all know some like-minded folks, some like-minded America First type patriots that you can forward the emails to. Our bylaws right now say that you have to be a York County resident in order to be a member. We're going to change that. Anybody can become a member. Now, they can't necessarily vote in reorg and so on and so forth, but we would love, I mean, I've got 3 sisters, none of them live here. Well, by golly, they're going to join. As soon as we change the bylaws, whether they like it or not. So the point is,
become an associate member.
I'm sorry?
The out of town, the ones who don't live here are considered associate members that cannot vote.
Oh, well, we'll see how that goes. All right, we can call them that, that's fine. Okay, so we've got the cards, you can forward emails, you can just word of mouth, talk to folks. We really want to grow. We also have a revamped social media presence. Thank you, Caitlin. Facebook and Instagram and X, we are active on all of those platforms. So for those of you so inclined, you can follow us there. And now, yeah, just about hit the number. We're going to hear from Larry, our chairman emeritus, who was at the state convention, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the skullduggery that went on there. So, Larry.
Thanks, Scott. We've got some slides we're going to show. Denise is going to bring them up. I'm going to stand back so I can see the slides and talk as we're looking at the slides. These are a picture of the convention. I think those are mostly our members there. Go ahead and next slide, please, Denise. That's all our membership. And one thing significant in this particular slide I want you to notice, you'll see behind us, there's nobody. There's a reason for that. What McKissick does, the establishment does, is they seat all the counties that support them in their crimes up front, and they stick all the counties that don't support what they're doing in the back. You'll notice that York County was sitting in the very back on the right-hand corner, and there was nobody sitting further back than we were. So we're not well thought of by the establishment. All right, next slide. All right, that's just more pictures of us being there having fun. Go ahead, one more, Denise. Next slide, Denise. Kelly. Oh, Kelly's doing. All right, this slide is significant here. That slide shows 24 empty chairs, and the reason for that is that Kelly was our credentials person on the credentials committee. Each county has a credentials representative at the county convention. They meet on Friday night before the convention. Their job, of course, is to check credentials on the people from each county that are going to be there. They always have a meeting on Friday night. They had one, and in that meeting, they had several protests. One was from Charleston County. I think one was Dorchester County. And there might have been some others, I'm not sure. One was Pickens County. And Charleston and Dorchester and Georgetown and Marion and several other counties, there was blatant cheating. In other words, the chair in those counties said, these are the people that are going to be our delegates. We're not going to vote on them. They are basically appointed delegates. Pickens and York, we elected delegates. The good counties elected delegates. They cheated, but despite that, when we got to the convention, I guess McKissick decided he wasn't sure he was going to win, despite him having already cheated in all these counties. And I will mention too that in these counties where the cheating was going on, Alan Wilson and Pamela Everett, our lieutenant governor, were at these county conventions and watched that cheating going on and could care less. They were also at the state convention and saw everything that went on there and could care less. They're part of it. So anyway, they basically they brought up several alleged violations that the previous chair in Pickens County had committed. One is they said he didn't rent a place big enough for the convention. He rented a place that seated 400 people. They had 339 registered delegates, and they had 287 that actually attended the convention. So I think a seating capacity of 400 was more than adequate. They alleged that some of the delegates weren't given Form 1s. Anybody wanted a Form 1, per the people in Pickens said they got one. They gave them out at the reorg, at the makeup. They gave them out between the makeup and the convention, and then they made them available at the convention. One individual named Chad Conley, who was one of McKissick's closest confidants, said that they didn't allow his son to attend the convention. He said his son lives in Pickens. Chad lives in Newberry. He's from Newberry. Said he alleged that they didn't allow his son to attend the convention. The people in Pickens don't even know who his son is, and they had no idea what he was talking about. And while all this was going on, they did not allow Pickens to attend this meeting and defend themselves. So they basically were being accused of doing things, had no opportunity to defend themselves. Basically, when it was all over, they said everything done in Charleston and Dorchester was okay. But Pickens, we're going to unseat your entire delegation because of what your chair did, as allegedly did. So they did not allow Pickens to be seated. The other interesting thing about that picture is those empty chairs were placed right smack in the middle of the convention, side to side, front to back. They were right in the middle, and they did that to send a message to us to say, we don't care what you're going to do, we're going to cheat, we're going to win regardless of what you do. I don't buy that, I don't accept that, and I'm going to keep fighting. You see, one green car, we had 49 delegates. And we did all we could to make sure that the delegates that we had on our slate would be able to attend the convention. But one person didn't make it. I'm not going to mention any names. One person didn't make it. So we get there at the convention, so one person's not there. So we have to move one of the alternates up to be a delegate. The individual there with the highest number of votes as an alternate was Brandon Guffey. So Brandon Guffey was our number 49 delegate. And he's holding up a green card right after the rest of us, the other 48 of us held up a red card voting for the right president of the convention. Brandon obviously voted for the wrong person. And every vote we had, he voted just the opposite of the other 48 members of our delegation there. And to add insult to injury, he was given the Legislator of the Ward, Legislator of the Year award. It's unbelievable. We didn't hang around, we didn't see that. We left before his award was handed out. Could stand to watch that.
Look at Andy.
I've never been that close to a rhinoceros.
We did end up with it at the convention. We wrestled for several months before the convention on who would we put up as chair. We ended up with a very good candidate, a guy by the name of Lee Gilreath, who was served 2 terms as a state senator from the Spartanburg area. Very nice guy, but because he was truly conservative, they found somebody to run against him, primaried him, and managed to get him out, so he's no longer serving in the Senate. But he did agree to run for state chair. Hopefully we'll get him to do that again in 2 years. He's an excellent guy, a good candidate, would serve us well. The McKissick did win. He won by 103 votes. If they had not done the cheating, we would have won easily, no question about it. We had the majority of the votes there in all these counties. Charleston, 2 years ago, Charleston had, out of 70 delegates, I think about 50 or 60 of them voted with us. This past convention, 1 voted with us. The other 69 voted for McKissick because they cheated and made sure the delegates in Charleston were McKissick people. All right, let's see. Okay, that's our empty seats. We, as a delegation, we sat there through the election of the chair and the first vice chair. And at that point, we knew we weren't going to win any of the other second, third chairs or anything else. So we basically left it. No, we'd already been there 4, 5, 6 hours, and we decided to pack up and leave. So several other counties did the same thing. We got a video. You want to show the video? It's about a 4-minute video. This is Lauren Martell. She's an attorney in Beaufort County. She ran for Attorney General in the last election against Alan Wilson, and she lost. Very nice lady, very conservative, has been working with us for years. And she wasn't at the convention. She was in one of the counties where they cheated, and she was not even made a delegate. But she's going to express her opinion on what's going on in the state. So take 4 minutes, and listen to what Lauren has to say.
Good afternoon, it's Lauren Martell. The main question today is, has the Republican Party served South Carolina, or are we now a blue state? Or worse, more of not a red, white, or blue state, but a communist state where tyrannical powers have infiltrated and truly taken over at the most fundamental, basic levels of our foundational election system, to the point where we go to precinct conventions, county conventions, and then state conventions, where they are run in a complete tyrannical, robotic, communist way. I believe we have reached that point. And because of what I've witnessed through the 2025 reorganization process, as well as dating back to all the decades that I've been involved in the Republican Party, there has been an erosion of what it stands for and what the platform is. And it is no longer what it says it is. Although it says it's the Republican Party, it is not. It doesn't act like the Republican Party. And we've got a real problem now, which rises to the level, I believe, of a national security crisis. The reason being is because the erosion and the subversion at the most elemental level of our election process is interfering so egregiously, so dramatically, and so against what the law intended for the Republican Party to be. It's supposed to be a certified political party. It's a creature that we don't even really know what it's morphed into, but it's out of control. It's not functioning in a fair or balanced manner, and it's basically hijacked and then handpicked to the point where it's their people, not the America First people. Everything is an illusion right there. What happened in the state, it was an illusion, and I think you're going to see mass amounts of people in South Carolina very disappointed with how the whole state convention went. It was really, really bad. The worst ever. And they've been getting worse and worse and worse over the years. So, Title VII of the South Carolina Code of Laws says whether a party should be certified or not, and what they have to do to be certified. And if they fail to check one of those boxes, they can be investigated, they can be decertified. And I believe that the Republican Party of the state of South Carolina needs to be investigated by an outside source, not even the South Carolina Election Commission, because that's appointed by the governor. And right now, there is absolutely no due process, because we tried filing a lawsuit to protect the cast vote records from the 2020 election, and the case was dismissed because the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, refused to acknowledge that they were subject to FOIA, and in fact doubled down with two Attorney General opinions that did the counter position, and the judge was concerned to go against the Attorney General's opinions. Therefore, the people who are in leadership want to keep the machines. They want to elect people who are going to keep the machines and spend multi-million dollars on the software and the hardware and the storage and things like that. And there's no oversight. It's become worse than DC in South Carolina because it's a smaller pool to have a cesspool. And there were a few America First, true America First patriots at the state convention, and I really, really just am so inspired by the people who just don't give up, and they're not weary. They don't grow weary. They keep fighting this good fight. But at this point, it is so rigged. It is so manipulated. It is so filled with subversion and counterfeit people that it really needs to be investigated from an outside source. I can give more details on what my observations were through the whole process from the precinct level to the county level. And then I didn't go to the state, but I saw some of the things that came from the state, and I believe there are people who are eyewitnesses there. This is a huge problem, and it needs to be investigated. I believe it reaches the level of a national security crisis. I believe that is counter to what the election integrity campaign that Donald J. Trump ran on and that he had put out in his executive order. And I believe that this subversiveness, if not addressed sooner, will become far worse for us as the people of the state of South Carolina and a national level. And that's why I believe that it affects the national level. And so the national agencies can get involved to investigate the state of South Carolina's election process and these two parties, particularly the Republican Party. Thanks, and God bless.
All right, one last slide. This really has nothing to do with the convention, but it's just a point I wanted to make. I think all of you know we've been trying for a long time to get closed primaries passed here in the state. Recently, a resolution was put forth in the House to keep closed primaries on the docket so they can be considered later on this year, and had a vote on a resolution to keep the closed primaries available for voting. And you can see that was voted down, and out of our delegation, the only one that voted for closed primaries was Jackie Pearfield. Everybody else in our delegation voted against closed primaries, despite the fact they know 80% of us won't close primaries. These people are not representing us, they're representing the establishment. Thank you very much. Yeah, any questions? Somebody asked me, does anybody have any questions? Quickly.
I do.
Yeah.
Can you speak on, and maybe Kelly can chime in, on conflict of interest? I know the state rule book says that anybody that has a precinct position and wants to run for state office has to vacate their precinct position. So that, to me, the spirit of that law, maybe not the letter of the law because it doesn't reciprocate the other way, says that there's a conflict of interest there. So how are we letting our state representatives infiltrate and get precinct positions, and then they get to go to county, and then they get to go to state. I think that's a huge conflict of interest, and I'd love to see what we can do about that. I know Kelly could speak more on it, she's the rules lady.
It's actually not a rule. At the precinct level, you can still be EC and be a state legislator.
I thought that rule you sent me said they had to vacate that
That's
seat.
in the spot higher,
Higher.
not higher. So if they were trying to be chair, then they could do that. So the state rule, I forget what rule it is, but I have pretty much.
Basically, what's going on here is that the people in charge, McKissick and that crowd, as well as the leaders of the House, said the Republican and the Democratic Party were certified as political parties in the state of South Carolina. There are about 6 different parties, the Green Party, and 2 or 3 other parties that were certified as political parties in the state of South Carolina. But they don't, and basically they said, okay, you're the Republican Party, you join the Republican Party, you have a voice in your government. Then they turn around and they say, well, this is really a club. It's like a country club, and you can't join this club and be a leader or really have any say-so unless you're loyal to our club and do what we want you to do. So, you want to join?
I was just saying that sounds like a Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, it's worse than that. I mean, the Democrats are at least honest about what they are.
Now, I have a question. I remember when Lauren Moore was talking about not being able to be seated at the Republican National Convention, and that the federal people intervened to get them there. Is there a way we could wiggle in that way, perhaps?
I don't know. You know, we're looking at all kinds of options. One is we got to elect better people. The fact that they're increasing the pay for our House representatives and senators will help us maybe get better people to run down there. I don't know. We have to build our numbers. We need each county to take over more counties. If we get enough numbers, we may reach a tipping point where they can't cheat enough to win. We can take over anyway. In the meantime, we're looking at outside. We're never going to get any justice inside the state. The judicial system is corrupt as well as the
That's why I
legislature.
brought that up at all.
So let's end it at that. Let's don't get into this deep discussion. Let's let our guest speakers speak tonight. So I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Scott, we have a
Yes, sir?
this close primary thing. I'm tired of hearing about it. Actually, we have a representative here that apparently voted against close primaries. Can he explain to us why he did that? I've heard a reason for it, and it sounds pretty decent.
Well,
But I'd like for him to explain it if he could.
well, and you know, I hope we'll have time for that at some point in the coming months, but tonight we're pretty tight on time. And we've got a guest.
Explain why.
We've got it. I appreciate it. I'm with you, Swain. All right, but we've got a representative who's come a long way to talk to us about that his topic. So tonight we have Representative Lee Gilreath, and he's got a topic. Some folks call it chemtrails. Some folks call it geoengineering. You know, it sounds a little nicer. But either way, I read a fascinating article just the other day, just as we were getting ready for this, about how the temperature in the oceans is changing, and that the amount of temperature in the top layer, which is the one that supports 90% of life in the oceans, which is kind of important, is shrinking. So the temperatures are getting colder in the ocean, and one theory is that the people who have been trying to seed particles in the atmosphere to fight climate change or global warming, well, it's working, but it's not a good thing. So that was interesting to me. The timing was interesting, and I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that. So, Lee?
Well, thank y'all so much for having me. Anybody that'll listen to what I've got to say, I'm certainly going to speak up and talk. And I want to say thank y'all for all that y'all do as York County Republican Party. I always hear great things about y'all from Jackie Terraville. And great lady, and she's doing a wonderful job for y'all. And just thank y'all for your support and your fight. So I'm Lee Gilreath. I'm in District 7, which is Anderson County, Belton, Island, Honey Path. And I got in this race because of the H4927, the health SAR bill. It just tore me out of the frame, and I wasn't going to stand back and watch anymore. And I couldn't talk anybody else to run, so here I am. I did sign up, I think the last day you could sign up. So I am a farmer, and we have a general contracting company. So I've lived in that district my whole life. I pay a lot of attention to a lot of different things. One of them is what's going on in our skies. They are, I call it a geoengineering climate control. And it is, it's destroying our planet. It's destroying our lives, our humanity, our health. With what we go through tonight, just want to make sure that the last one, one person said, well, you know, you got to kind of give people hope. And there is hope, and that's in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So when I speak about this, some people say, well, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. And I just pay attention to what's going on. And I do a lot of my research through a gentleman named Dane Wigington, and he's on geoengineeringwatch.org. He's going to join us later, become good friends with Dane. He has a documentary called The Dimming, and if you go to the table on your way out, if you hadn't picked up something already, pick up a brochure or a card, and my card's back there too. You're welcome to reach out to me with any questions, but you can go to his website page, and that 2-hour documentary will explain a lot of this. And he does a weekly post on this to educate people of what's going on, from the fires to Helene to snowstorms that we have all the way down to Louisiana and Florida, South Florida. You know, it's just, President Trump said it, how many conspiracies before it's mathematically impossible? Or how many, I'm sorry, how many, anyway, we'll forget it. How many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? Thank you. So, and he also said, I don't know if y'all remember in 2017 when he was taking a picture with a bunch of generals, one of the reporters said, why are y'all all getting together, Mr. President? And he said, well, there's a storm coming. And he said, what storm, Mr. President? And he said, you'll see. Well, we are in the middle of this storm. And it's not just one thing of geoengineering climate control. We all, you know, see a plethora of different weapons and strategies that they're using against us. But we'll stay focused on this one tonight. So this started in 1946. It was patented in 1946. Before I go there, will you go back to that first thing? So this is Stop Geoengineering Billboard Fund. If you go to Give, Send, Go, and there's some pamphlets on the back with the QR code. If you'll go to that, and if you want to donate anything, I am doing a campaign on billboards across South Carolina. I'm doing 2 at every Air Force base. Starting June 3rd, the 2nd, they're going to install. I'm doing 3 at Donaldson Center in Greenville. I'm doing 2 in Charleston at the Air Force Base, 2 at McIntyre Shaw Air Force Base, and then 2 at the Beaufort Marine Base, Air Base, Marine Air Base. I'm doing a live stream video that Dane's going to help put out, and we hope it's going to reach a lot of people and get across. So it's a pretty big deal, and probably going to be a lot of feedback from it, not in a good way, but probably be a lot of feedback. So it was patented in 1946, geoengineering climate control. Another name for it, stratospheric aerosol injection, or solar radiation management, and AKA chemtrails. We try not to use that because we want to not be brought down with conspiracy theory anymore. So in 1987, they started doing this weather manipulation and this injection in the atmospheres. So Lyndon B. Johnson in 1958 said this. He said, "From space, the masters of infinity would have the power to control the Earth's weather, to cause drought and flood, to change tides and raise the levels of the sea, to divert the Gulf Stream and change temperature climates to frigid. Whoever controls the weather controls the world." You know, that was in 1958. This is a plan that's been going on for a long time. It's been in our skies for a long time. If you look back on old movies, you'll see it on the screen, going across the blue skies. But we don't have the blue skies that we used to have when I was a kid. There's a lot of people in here my age or younger, and you remember looking at the clouds and being able to depict different characters or animals out of it with a crisp, bright blue sky behind it, and we don't have that anymore. There is this was started pretty heavy in Vietnam, and if you remember the torrential downpours, floodings they had, it's a weapon. It's a military weapon that they use. They even cause droughts with it, and that starts conflicts as well. They've taken all the moisture from Iran, and Iran came out against this and stated, you know, that that we had the control of the weather. So it all goes back to being in control, starting wars, I'm not going to say that, but it really is. It's a depopulation tool. Yeah. So there's 34 other states other than South Carolina, 33 other than South Carolina, 34 total that we have a bill written for this. My first bill was 3915, which had a lot of teeth in it. It was sent straight to judiciary. I was trying to get it in ag committee, where I think it would have maybe moved. So I wrote another bill that took the teeth out of it, and it took the cloud seeding, omitted it from the bill. And I got a lot of, I don't know, people were aggravated with me about doing that, but I was just trying to get it, at least get it through. And that second bill was H4010. And it didn't have the penalties and punishments behind it that the other one did. But so what is involved, or what's included, and what does this contain of what they're putting in the skies? These are done by the Air Force, and they have tanks inside the fuselage that go down both sides of the plane. Do you have a picture of that? There's another one with a fuselage. Those are the spray nozzles there. It's inside the,
Oh, I see it right
yeah. So they are putting about 40 to 60 million tons a year out of it's micro nanoparticles of aluminum, barium, strontium, cadmium. They're now finding mercury and lead in this. Even finding pathogens and parasites. I watched a video of a 3-week incubation period of an egg, 2 different eggs, that actually hatched out at body temperature that they found with a lot of this other particles in, on a piece of plastic from Dr. Jane Ruth, if you're familiar with her.
Ruby.
Dr. Jane Ruby, thank you. So these micro nanoparticles, especially the aluminum, they float in the air for 3 months to had a testimony in Florida that 2 years from the CEO from Rainmaker. So these particles don't just dissipate. There used to be a fight about, they said, well, it's just condensation trails. But it's not condensation trails because these jets, those sprayers that you saw, they turn on, they turn off, and then they'll turn back on. I've even seen them fly around and do 4 parallel lines as they turn off, circle around, and then hit it again. You know, that's not a commercial flight. When a flight is going eastbound and it takes over a 90-degree turn to go north, you know, he may have been on the phone with Mrs. Airport, I don't know, but you know, it's just not common that you see that. But these particles are so fine that they go through your filtration system in your air conditioning units. So if you think you're safe inside, you're not. In your vehicle, they go through that as well, your filtration system in your air conditioner. And these micro nanoparticles go, you breathe in up to 20 million micro nanoparticles per breath, which goes straight into your bloodstream, to your brain, to your lungs, and in your spinal cord. And I can testify because I've had my blood done on a live screen TV with the doctor that was going to try to be here tonight. We were going to have 3 of them. Very special people that are actually helping RFK Jr.'s team. So I spent 6 hours with her. I don't have any water, do you? I spent 6 hours with her doing a blood, urine, and saliva analysis. And she showed me all the metal that's in my blood, along with graphene oxide that's self-replicating. And they have a way to kind of not cure us from all of this that's going on, but at least sustain us. So I won't get into that and get off of this topic, but do you have that slide with the snow slide? I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. So if you go outside at night, if you're questioning any of this, you can put a headlamp on your head and shine it up into the sky, and you will see all of these particles coming down. Now this was an exaggerated night, but you'll have 2 or 3 a month of these exaggerated nights, but you'll never see it without it. They're always in the air. Will it play? And it's just amazing how much you can't see it during the day, but at night with a headlamp you definitely can see it. So try that at home if we don't get that to work. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So we had Helene not long ago, and if you noticed, I don't know how much, I don't think y'all had a lot of damage here. Belton Honey Path, we had a lot of damage. And in Western North Carolina, it was horrific. I went up there 7 or 8 times, taking supplies, helping, taking a great crew there. Just to help support, because they had 0 support. It was all the people, local people and people from out of state volunteering. There was no government helping them whatsoever. But one thing I saw the whole way there, we do clearing and grubbing as well, so I've taken trees down most of my life. Root systems in these 200, 250-year-old oak trees should have a tap root and should have a root system out to the drip line of the tree. Every tree that we probably cleared probably 150 to 200 trees around our farm and through the Belton and Honey Path and then North Carolina as well. But every tree that you see has probably about 1.5 foot root system. And that's not normal. So what's happening is the respiration system of a tree has stomata is what it's called, and it has it brings in carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. Well, guess what? God made us the exact opposite. We take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So what they're trying to do is gum these trees up. And Dane had told me this way before the hurricane ever hit. He said, you know, the root system is not there on any of these trees anymore. He said, we're losing trees everywhere. He's from Northern California. He said, we're losing trees everywhere out here. I said, well, we're not so much, no more than usual, but we are having a lot of trees fall down. Well, after Helene hit, it was very evident of what's going on. It was exactly what Dane was saying. It's gumming the trees up. That kills the tree, one thing, but two, it reduces our oxygen supply. That's 50% of our oxygen supply. And the gentleman was speaking about the water temperatures in the ocean heating up. The other 50% of our oxygen is plankton. 90% of our plankton is gone in the oceans right now for exactly the same reason. All the coral reefs are dead, fish are dying and washing up, and this is all a result of what they're doing with this geoengineering climate control. It is and it's global. It's not just in the United States. It's all over the world. These micro nanoparticles that we're talking about, they are finding 1% of the weight of the brain matter is filled with these microplastic particles. Different than, that's not including the aluminum that you have in your body. With the aluminum in your body, I have another bill that's taking fluoride out of the water. And the reason I'm trying to take the fluoride out of the water, one is it's awful, pineal gland and all other cognitive dissonances, but it also coagulates back with aluminum. So it's collecting that aluminum that's all in our bodies, and that's just causing all the health problems. You think about Alzheimer's. We had something at the State House, and they were talking about the increase in Alzheimer's. It was Alzheimer's awareness. That if you have all this aluminum in your body, and we've had it in our body for most of our lives, or all of our lives, that's a big part of that. Parkinson's also comes with that, dementia. So it's something that we can't get away from. And I'm not going to hit on Jackie too much here, but she had a great bill that got passed. I'm so proud of her with the red dye bill in the school lunches. And but I have, and this has nothing to do with one bill getting passed, one not. What it does have to do with is priorities. And I really think RFK Jr. should be put in the priority. We can choose what food we eat, we can choose what water we drink, but we cannot choose the air that we breathe. Therefore, I put it on the priority list. And I hope I don't make you mad with it. So they have, your question may be, well, all right, so you say that Helene took down trees, and we know the root systems and what's causing the oxygen deficit, but how do they control the weather or manipulate the weather? So they have several different patented military weapon weather instruments. One's called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. One's a direct energy weapon. NexRad, which is what I wanted to speak on, is on these they put them on these 5G towers. So they put, with all the frequencies floating in the air, they are able to intensify a storm and actually direct that storm until it gets to a little bit above Category 2. And right at landfall, that's when you'll see these hurricanes, they increase intensity. And when have you ever seen a hurricane go 470 miles from the shoreline up to 5,000 to 6,000 foot elevation mountains and intensify when it gets there? well, then they can de-escalate it the same way with dry ice. And so if you watch a 90-second on geoengineeringwatch.org, it's called Helene. It's 90 seconds, and you'll see it dissipate as soon as it goes over the mountains of western North Carolina. You just can't fathom what all they're trying to do with so many different things. But the fires, there's fires going all over the place in Canada. We had our biggest fire in South Carolina in recorded history, over 13,000 acres, with it was 15,000 when it stretched into North Carolina. And I had a guy reach out to me from Rainmaker, a company called Rainmaker. And what they do is they do cloud seeding. And he was asking me to omit my bill. Do I have that email in there? He asked me to omit cloud seeding from my bill. So that goes right along with an admission to say that he says he understands that geoengineering climate control and stratospheric aerosol injection is terrible on the planet, terrible on humanity and all of our health, but he wants to omit it. Well, if you want to play God, which I don't want to see that, then why don't you go put the fires out that are burning in Chimney Rock? They don't just create rain or a torrential downpour, and that's what we mostly get, is just a torrential downpour. They're pulling moisture from one area to another, so where they're creating these torrential downpours, they're creating a drought in another area. And it doesn't help anybody. And they were trying to tell me that, oh, we help the drought areas, and we help create rain, but they're not God. And plus that's more chemicals that are coming on us anyway. The ozone layer of this is actually depleted 70%, where we're hearing reports of 30%. And they're doing this with all these aluminum particles, all these different particles in the air. Also with sulfur iodide. So I think of about, one more thing I want to say. So Raytheon and Lockheed Martin are a part of this. And that's why I'm putting these in all these Air Force bases, one being at Lockheed Martin and Donaldson Center. They actually write the weather and send it to all the local channels, all of the local radio stations, NOAA, the Weather Channel, every one of them. They all have the same reports. All of them seem to be wrong these days, but that's where they get their information from, because these are the industrial military complexes that are engineering all this in the first place. So, of course, they have a pretty good idea of where it's going to rain anyway, because they're setting it all up. But let me just make everybody aware that this pendulum is swinging right now, and it's getting to a very critical point that this pendulum is going to break one of these days. And they keep trying to cool this down. I mean, it was 62 degrees, the high 2 days ago in Anderson, South Carolina. May 27th, I think was the date. I've never seen it that, cool at the end of May. They're trying to keep this cool down as long as they can, and then when it lifts, with that ozone layer gone, one, be careful in the sun, but that's the least of our worries. Also, there's no plants growing right now. All these micro nanoparticles are coming and they're contaminating our water supplies, all of our food. The bees are devastated at 80 to 90% reduction in the bee numbers. And you can see this one video right here, or the picture right here, was back in January of this year. And these are they were 60 to 70 degrees in the North Pole during January, middle of the winter. And then you see where we're at. The coldest, the lower 48, coldest place on Earth. So with that being said, I just want to encourage everybody. I think that the best way that we can fight this is awareness and education, which is hard to do, but anybody that wants to support what was up earlier with the Stop Geoengineering Billboard Fund, hopefully that's going to start sparking some interest in education in this. It's so compartmentalized that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand doing. So in the military, which I was in the military, they don't tell one another, you know, you have a department for this and you have a department for this. And so those departments don't really over flood much until they get to the end result of what they're trying to accomplish. So we're sending out text messages to every one of these employees in these bases to try to make them aware of what's going on. And so that if they do know anything, that hopefully they'll come forward. So it's about the last line of defense. Trump and RFK Jr. can't stop it right now. And they've mentioned this. I don't know if y'all have heard that, but Trump has said there's bad things in our skies. They're spraying us, and it's really bad. I don't know if you heard that or not, but he said 100 days he'd have it done. Well, we passed that, and nothing's getting done. But ultimately, I think we need to be just praying heavy to our Lord and Savior. You know, God wins at the end. Yes, sir.
I've been reading recently, well, thank you for being here for this presentation, that the aluminum, barium, thorium, and the other chemicals that they're spraying in the air, you know, not only coming down, but they're contaminating the ground soil. Farmers are getting smaller yields, bugs and insects that are good for the soil are dying off. The farmers aren't seeing bugs anymore. And you know, our food supply is part of the depopulation effort, and our food is contaminated by this too.
You're exactly right. And the bug population is diminishing, 70-something%. And when the bees die, then we die. Yes, ma'am.
Let me get to you with the microphone.
Okay, this is not exactly the same topic, but it's along the same lines. As part of the Green New Deal initiative under Biden, one of the fuels that they promote that as being cleaner than oil is biomass. And if you don't know what biomass is, it's trees, it's plants, it's the thing that eats carbon. They're using that as fuel, promoting that as fuel. And at the same time, they are giving out grants to universities and researchers to develop facilities that eat carbon, that neutralize carbon. And so while they're tearing down trees, they're replacing that with facilities. They're paying someone to do the thing that trees do, that plants do. It's a racket. It's all so somebody can make money. And I just wanted to point out that University of South Carolina received $10 million for this very thing. And out of almost $80 million that the federal government was giving out. And so while you're working on a billboard for that, also maybe when you're talking to people, say, hey, did you know they're tearing down trees to put up solar farms? They're tearing down trees to put up carbon-eating facilities, And then a lot of people are making money off of this climate thing when they themselves are making the climate or the planet worse. That's my rant.
Well, to respond to that, Bill Gates is also burying trees in the ground. I didn't know if you knew that or not. And you know, he's the largest landowner in the United States. But there are also federal programs out there that they want to come onto your property and pay you to let them extract carbon dioxide out of the air and store it in tanks on your property.
Here,
Yes, ma'am.
here.
Do you know, are they adding it to jet fuel?
So I've heard that, and I've asked Dane Wigington that, but he has no confirmation on that if they're putting it through jet fuel. But these are coming out of nozzles, separate nozzles, and I've spoken to pilots, and they said, you know, those nozzles are for something else, but it's very easy to attach, you know, a different line to a nozzle and spray out of it. With the amount of material coming out of these planes that you visually see from the ground, there's no way that can come out of a fuel system. And if you're a pilot at 40,000 feet in the air and you trust that plane with all that going through the fuel, you know, I don't see, there may be some that can go through the fuel system, but most of this is being injected by chemical spray.
Has Dane had a chance to speak to anybody that is actually piloted these planes?
He has whistleblowers on the Deming that you can watch, not the pilots themselves, but Kristen Megan Edwards is a whistleblower that worked for the Air Force, and she was in one department, you know, and there weren't any MSDS forms coming in, no biohazard waste material, and so she started questioning that. Well, as soon as she did, she got moved to another facility. She did the same thing there. Then her career ended right after that. I think 9 years in the military.
Lee, we're trying to use the microphone for the questions.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question about the particles. Is that the reason why people are getting autism? I most likely believe that's the reason.
That's one part of the equation, absolutely. The other part of the equation is vaccinations lead to a lot of this problems too. And we've all had vaccinations. I went to the military, and you know, you walk down the line, I don't know how many they gave me, but I had a bunch of them.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm confused about who's behind this. You said at the beginning,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. You said at the beginning that the Air Force was kind of behind it, but then it seemed like commercial airplanes are also.
No, ma'am, they're not. But I don't think they're putting this in commercial airplanes. I think it's all either military or they do have contractors, just like Rainmaker. There's another one that does stratospheric aerosol injection called Making Sunsets. There's 4 or 5 different companies that I've seen.
Private.
There's private as well. Yes, ma'am.
I've followed Dane Wigington for a long time, but I've often looked up into the skies and seen that, and I know all those chemicals, and I've often wondered what planes are doing that. If it's Air Force, why is our commander-in-chief, our president, not able to stop the Air Force from doing that? I don't understand that.
We're in a full-fledged war. There's a continuity of government, and there's a continuity of military. I do think Trump and RFK Jr., in my heart, I think they're doing absolutely all they can do. This is a battle that's been going on for years. We're in a battle of good versus evil, God versus the devil. And we know who wins. But it's a force to be reckoning with. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten or created 100 wars in 100 years. We are the not America, but
We're a corporation.
thank you. I didn't want to say it.
Can I say something? If people want to go down the rabbit hole, you have to look at a group called the Bilderberg Group. It started around the 1940s or so with about 8 guys. You got to look at the Rothschild family, you have to look at the Zarian Mafia, and you have to look at the Rockefeller Project. If you start looking into all of those organizations, you will start to understand what's actually going on. That's basically what he's trying to say, but not saying.
Thank you. You helped me a lot. Yes, Ben.
My name is Ben. I'm new here.
Can you hang on that question 1 second? So I mentioned this gentleman before, Dane Wigginton on geoengineering climate control, and he was nice enough to take time out of his schedule and be with us tonight. So I'm gonna let him help us with the question answering. He is way smarter than I am. Hey, Dane.
Hi, Lee. And first, my apologies to everybody there. I know I'm a few minutes late. I was on the phone with legislators from New York that are now focused on this issue as well. And we're supplying them with some published study. So we have more wheels turning there, but my deepest apologies for being a few minutes late.
We just appreciate you being here, and that's very important too. So thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, actually, well, it's not a question, but what happened last year.
Can you hear? Thank you.
Barry, is this Ben?
Yes, sir. Ben, I'm gonna put you back.
Keep it real quick so I can hear the question.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Oh, hi, Dan. My name is Ben. I live here in Rock Hill. Last year, in April, we had a big storm. I've been here for 7 years and I never saw anything like that. The wind came from west to east, and it was like a microburst. My house was damaged. All my neighbors, the houses they went down. We had 1 casualty, and it was really bad. But the strangest thing, I was outside working with my car, and I don't know if anybody saw that movie, The Mist. It was a mist, and it was not a normal mist. It came together with hail, wind, but the mist smelled like acid. And my daughter was in the back with her best friend, and they ran inside the house. When the wind came and covered up, it was a very strong acid. The smell was horrible. The house shook, windows blew up, my roof went up, and I don't know what happened, but I truly believe that now that you're talking about this, I believe that someone was controlling that. And the interesting part is that it hit just the poor area from Rock Hill, not the nice houses. Those houses were fine. It was the houses that they were low income.
Ben, there's nothing natural about what happened. Your observations are correct. This is weather warfare. There are no constraints on these people. These are patented processes. The mist, the chemical ice nucleation, the wind is associated with that because it enhances the endothermic reacting properties of the elements. They're seeding into the clouds. Endothermic meaning energy absorbing. Think of the first aid kit that sits in your shelf for 20 years. You mix those chemicals together, you have ice instantly at room temperature from that chemical reaction. They're doing the same thing with cloud moisture. Can they target areas? Yes, they can target specific regions very effectively. For those that remember the Occupy Wall Street protests and the October surprise snowstorm, that's exactly what that was. They wanted to clear those people out, and they did so. They did the same thing to the Dakota protesters. We captured that on satellite radar. Rain migrating over at 50 degrees suddenly flashed out to chemically frozen material. We have baseball and softball size hail falling everywhere now, every single storm. All over, 6-inch hailstones just fell in Texas, 6-inch. It's doing horrific damage. That's chemical ice nucleation. So again, we are at a stage, this is a very non-linear equation. The planet's life support systems are blowing apart. Climate engineering is a major factor in causing that to happen. As this unfolds, they are doubling down on their operations. They are using them as specific targeting means, agricultural regions, other regions for other purposes. But this is weather warfare, period. And we have an engineering winter section on the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org. We have an engineering fires, engineering wildfire section. Many of you already know probably Canada is on fire again. That's not an accident, and the source of ignition is a separate subject. The part that needs to be focused on in this equation is what is setting the template for those fires to burn with such ferocity, and that is climate engineering. We have an engineering drought section as well. So again, this is a fight for life. This is not just another issue we need to deal with. We don't deal with this issue, nothing else matters. So again, I'm very grateful for everyone that's there. Ben, your observations are correct. There are a number of chemical constituents in this precipitation. All of them are detrimental to our health. And because this is an ongoing experiment with no constraints, at any given moment, we don't know what they're dispersing at that moment. But we know on ice nucleating elements, we do have ammonium, we have barium, we have graphene, there's a number of others. But it's quite a witch's brew. Again, nothing natural about it. And they can and are orchestrating surface wind flows as well. They can orchestrate atmospheric pressure zones, which means they can orchestrate surface winds. That's why you have 80, 90, 100-mile-an-hour winds when they want to blowtorch a place like the Pacific Palisades or Lahaina. Those events also unnatural. Worse is coming. I want to leave it with that note. Worse is coming. You can quote me on that. So we all need to bone up on the basics of the issue and help sound the alarm.
Hi, first of all, thank you. I hope you have security because I want you to keep on going and do what you do, but I don't think they're going to be too happy with you. Kind of trailing on gentlemen before me, and I don't know if Dane answered a little bit of my question, but do you think that they can control the direction of storms? You mentioned, Helene, they can control the intensity and then also when it de-intensifies. But I'm the least knowledgeable about weather in this whole room, but my feeling is that hurricanes are supposed to kind of follow the coast, which is east, and Helene went west, and then and I agree with you, depopulation is probably the biggest goal, but what are other goals, like up in western North Carolina, there's a lot of lithium up there, the poorer section of Rock Hill that got the worst of our storm. So I'd like you to talk about like land grabs, or if you're allowed to, or maybe your friend in the back can help you out if you're not allowed to talk about that. But can they control direction as well as intensity?
Yes, without question. And I'm sorry, ma'am, I missed your first name.
Oh, Beth.
Beth, thank you for your question, Beth. Short answer to your question is all the above. All the above are agendas and objectives. And what's important to remember, what's critically important to remember in this equation, because they have used weather as a weapon for over 3/4 of a century at ever larger scales, on top of the other damage we've done to the planet, and we have definitely done damage, and that's important when you're introducing this issue to others. Keep it on the subject of climate engineering. Too many people in alt media especially are their lead punch with this issue is to somehow claim there's nothing wrong with the planet or the planet's life support systems. That is patently false. They are broken. We're living on a broken planet that's dying by the day. Climate engineering on top of this will just help us to this point. But climate engineering is disabling the planet's ability to respond to all the other sources of damage done. And it's ubiquitously contaminating the entire planet, everywhere, everyone. And for those who ask, and you'll all get this question, this can't be happening because why would, quote, they do this to themselves? That's such a key question, and so many people use this as an excuse to deny what they can see with their own eyes. They, meaning those who print the money, it's not an elected official, everybody in elected offices, with the exception of the very few people like Lee Gilreath, and there's others out there, I just spoke to some in New York, as I mentioned, but those in the highest offices are beholden to those who really hold the levers of power, and that's those who print the money, period. We have a precious few like Lee, and everyone that's there. I'm so grateful for all of you, but there are complex factors in this equation, and as they've manifested the damage to the planet, much of it from these operations to begin with, they're doubling down these operations in an attempt, a very destructive and deadly attempt to try to mask some of that damage so they can continue on this course of business as usual until the moment of impact, to keep the public oblivious to how severely the planet is damaged, how immediate the threat is. And as an example, I would cite this. I'm sure everyone in the room there remembers the blizzards in New Orleans we had this winter. Blizzard in New Orleans and blizzard in Florida. What people weren't told and what they don't know is that at the same window of time, it was above freezing and raining in most of the polar regions. Alaska, Siberia, Iceland, Greenland, Moscow, above freezing and raining while there was a blizzard in New Orleans. So that's chemical ice nucleation. We're in a runaway collapse scenario right now. Those in power are more desperate and dangerous than ever. People are waking up, and everyone in this room can do a tremendous amount of good. If you share credible data from a credible source, send a link out to agricultural groups, environmental groups, agencies, officials. CC as many other aware and awake people as you can in that message. Peaceful, professional message, but why are you not addressing this issue, which is the biggest hole in the bottom of the boat? Hold them accountable. When you CC 50 other people in that message, then that person knows a lot of people are listening, keeps them accountable. All of us need to start these spot fires of awareness everywhere we can. We need to get this issue to light so that those participating, this is key, that are being told they're doing something benevolent, something for the common good, and that includes our military brothers and sisters, defense contractor, families, personnel. Once they really realize they are participating in their own near-term demise, it would be our hope that they would stand down. That is our only chance of stopping these programs. But it's all the above. It's every single aspect, from targeting of certain regions and communities, clearing out certain regions to access resources, masking, hiding the true severity of heating on the planet by engineering a snowstorm in New Orleans. And again, the climate engineering can create temporary toxic surface cool downs at the cost of worsening the overall meltdown. Keep that in mind. So it's complex, and for everybody, you can go to the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org. This will help you. And scroll down, you'll see answers to the most commonly asked questions on climate engineering. There's 13 short videos there, 2-3 minutes each. That will help.
Okay, I feel like he was terribly negative about what we can do. Are there any states that have already banned geoengineering in
Florida
their
and
state?
Tennessee. Florida and Tennessee.
Okay, so there is hope in that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Representative Gilreath. Also, Dane, I'm familiar with your work. My name is Jerry. I'm from the Lake Wiley area in South Carolina. Can you, on the ladies' behalf too, can you tell us all, and I know you've done congressional hearings, Senate hearings, can you tell us all in how we can help in order to get this out there and get our leaders to reverse course?
Thank you, Jerry. Again, thanks to everyone there. And what I just described is the best way everyone can help. Start spot fires of awareness everywhere you can. Again, you do that by sending out credible data from a credible source, because too many people in the activist community, anything that's dangled in front of their face from any source, regardless of how uncredible that source, many people tend to propagate that, and that's a problem. It undermines our cause, puts us on unstable ground. But sharing credible source, the dimming is the best one-stop tool, but we have short versions. We have a 12-minute preview of the dimming, a 4-minute preview. So these flaming arrows can be sent out, and we should, and we must fight like the colonists. They didn't line up like the British. They don't have to organize in big groups and meetings. From your own home computer, everyone can send out these flaming arrows. Openly CC as many other awakened or individuals as you can. Peaceful professional message. Start a conversation with the heads of agencies, agricultural groups, fisheries groups. The list is endless. If we all engage in that, the equation becomes exponential. We push this issue to the full light of day sooner than those in power are ready for that to happen. If we can do that, the fur will fly. We will change the equation. We face unimaginable challenges under any scenario, but that's the greatest and most important leap we can make in the right direction. And all of us can do that for free from our own home computers.
Hi, Lee. Well, I love this topic because it's the kind of thing that you look up and you start to notice and you start to kind of wonder why the sky looks like that. And I always tell people, at the very least, that's pollution that's slowly dropping down on us, right? And it's not good. So I love what you're doing and I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much, Dane, for joining us. My question though, and maybe this is a good final question, is the email you got from that company, the Rainmaker company. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it, but it was a very interesting email because in the second paragraph, he literally says that geoengineering is real, but cloud seeding is good, and here's why. And he wanted to meet with you and tell you why, yes, geoengineering is bad, admitting it's real, but cloud seeding is good. So my question for you is, did you meet with him and talk to him about it?
I did not meet with him. But I'm gonna let Dane speak about that because Dane referred to it as a Dixie cup, taking a Dixie cup, trying to bail out Titanic. It's just a very small piece of this problem. But Dane, I'm gonna let you continue on with that.
I would concur with Lee not meeting with them. There would be no point. Anybody that's in that position of this individual, I know who it is, that advocates for any form of climate intervention, modification whatsoever is either clueless or lying. Any intervention in the planet's natural life support systems is to derail those systems. There is no beneficial anything to any of it. If you cause rain to precipitate in one place, it didn't get where it was going. That's a very simple equation. And even silver iodide is also toxic. It's just a smaller form. So the localized, published, not denied weather modification operations, single engine propeller driven airplane with a few flares in the wings, they might drop 5 or 10 kilos of material. Yes, it's toxic, yes, it's bad, but it's a matter of scale, and that is used as a smokescreen to distract from the incomprehensibly larger climate intervention weather warfare operations where, again, a single tanker can carry 100 tons of toxic nanoparticles. One tanker, KC-135 can carry 100 tons in a single payload. So they've intentionally tried to distract populations and not knowing what the difference between the two is, and yes, Lee's correct. It's like comparing an ant to an elephant, literally. So no beneficial weather modification, anything. Florida has passed criminal charges. I just got off the phone with some of the legislators there as well, and they're going to pursue even the localized weather mod pilots there as well. So hopefully we can start to put a chill across the whole spectrum.
I think we're out of time, Dane, but I can't tell you how much we all appreciate you stepping in and helping me with questions. You do a great job with it.
Ability to alter this equation, to be at the end of the dimming, the last grain of sand to trigger the landslide of awakening. Our situation is far more grave than almost any yet realized. We are late in the game, but again, if we can trigger this landslide of awakening, of which every single one of us is spokes in the wheel, we're all needed. We could alter the equation in the right direction. That's what we're fighting for. So thank you to everybody there, and thanks to you, Lee, for all your courage.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dane.
Well, that's sobering. Thank you, Lee, and thanks again to Dane Wigington. The film's name is The Dimming, so I'm going to go with D-I-M-M-I-N-G. All right, and they've got a trailer and a 4-minute version, an 8-minute version, and a 2-hour version, which, you know,
It's the best one.
is the best one, no doubt. Okay, so.